be here. I thought you wasn't going to get me up. Oh, Chesley, we wouldn't forget you. We just wanted to wait a little later today to get you up because it's celebrating time. Yes, it's celebrating. There are many people celebrating with their dads. That's right, and that's good. It's Father's Day, and so they're celebrating with their dads, and we wanted to give them opportunity to do that before we came on. Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Get out of that trunk. I tell you what, I got a good story. I got a good story than a good kid. Yes, we do. We have a good story about a very fine boy that obeyed his parents, and well, we'll just get into the story later, but what the name of it is Samuel's Example, quick to obey. Samuel's Example. He was quick to obey, and he was just a boy. He was just a boy, but he obeyed the Lord, and God had a plan for him. God had a plan for him, and I tell you what, Chesley, we're going to tell that story, but right now, I need you to sing the theme song. Oh, this gospel train is hitting at the track, chugging at the track, this hitting at the track. I got mixed up. You got mixed up. Okay, well, we can start all over again. This gospel train is chugging at the track, chugging at the track, it's chugging at the track. This gospel train is chugging at the track, chugging to the glory land. All right, and tugging to the glory land, who can go? Get on board this gospel train, yes you can, yes you can. Get on board this gospel train, yes you can, yes you can. This gospel train is going to the glory land. This gospel train is going to the glory land. And yes, it is, Chesley, and those who love the Lord and serve Him, it can be anybody. You don't have to be rich and famous. You don't have to be rich and famous. You may be rich and famous, but it can be anybody that wants to serve the Lord, love Him, honor Him, and you can indeed win others. That's right, win others to get on the gospel train. All right, Chesley, so our story today, Samuel's Example, quick to obey. Our scripture text today, now the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel, and Samuel answered, speak, for your servant hears. That's from 1 Samuel chapter 3 and verse 10. That's really good. He was quick to obey. I want to know the whole story. You want to know the whole story. Well, Chesley, I think we need to get and tell the whole story because it's good there anyone now. That's right. It applies to us now. It helps us, and that we can know to be quick to obey. And God blesses. God blesses people that are quick to obey. So Eli was an unfaithful priest, really. He really wasn't. What was the deal? Did he just forget God? I don't know, Chesley, really what happened, if he forgot God or what it was, but I do know this, he wasn't really faithful what did his family. Well, Chesley, he had a couple of sons that he didn't have them to obey, and they were following and supposed to be priests too, and they wouldn't live in godly lives, and that's not going to help the people when he's gone. That's right, it's going to really be bad when he dies, and his sons, they don't really live for the Lord, they're unfaithful. I think something's got to happen. Well, Chesley, did you know what? God always has somebody that will work for him. And so he calls him. And so who is it? Samuel, Chesley. There was a woman, we're going to talk about Hannah. There was a woman named Hannah. And she wanted a baby so bad. She didn't have any children. And so she prayed for a son. Yes, she did. And when she went down, and they'd go once a year, and they would offer a sacrifice, and they would talk to the priest, or they would pray. And she was praying, and she wasn't praying to him. Oh, no, she wasn't praying to him. She was praying to God. And, he's the one true God, so she was praying to him. And as she was praying, and actually he noticed that her mouth was moving, but he didn't hear any words. And you know what he thought? He thought she went to sleep. No, he didn't think she went to sleep. But what he said, he thought maybe she was drunk. Oh no, drunk in the house of God, that is just not. Oh, she can't do that. Chesley, she wasn't doing that. Oh, she was so embarrassed when the priest thought that she was drunk in the house of the Lord, and she told him she wasn't doing it. What was she doing then? Just moving her lips and not saying nothing. Chesley, she was so heartbroken because she didn't have any children, and she was asking the Lord. She said, she said to to Eli, I'm so sorry. No, that's not what the problem is. She said, I want a son. She said, I want a son, and I'm praying and asking the Lord for a son. That's and so what she actually was saying to the Lord, she told him, said, Lord, if you will give me a son. That's what really in it say. Maybe she wasn't saying it out loud, but I think kind of inside of her, yes, kind of inside of her, she was calling out and saying, Lord, if you'll give me a son, I'll dedicate him to you all the days of his life. Oh, dedicate him to the Lord, so he already knows what he's going to do. Well, this is what she's asking, Lord. I'd like for my son to be a person that can lead the people. And so that was a good prayer. That was a good prayer, and she was not selfish. She had no thoughts of herself really. It was just I think for Israel, for her nation, for her country. She cared because they were not living for God. Because it was because Eli wasn't doing his job. Eli was not doing his job. But you know what? I really think that it could be. I wonder if Hannah had seen that those sons were not going to follow the example in any way to follow the Lord, that their dad wasn't really teaching them and training them. And so maybe that's why she called out to God. It could be that's why she called out to God. Chesley, that's what I've wondered. Well, anyhow, this is what happened sometime later. Then, it came a time that she went up, and the Lord did grant her request. And she's got a baby boy. She's got a baby boy. She's named him Samuel. And you know what, Chesley? She told the Lord. She had told him, remember, there at the temple, and she was going to dedicate him to the Lord. She said, I'll dedicate him to all the days of his life. He'll be used for. So when he got just a little bit older, and when he was like a teenager, well, Chesley, I think he might have been quite a teenager, but that's when she took him. When she went and she had, I'm sure every year, she would, as they would go up, and there was one year she couldn't go because that she had this tiny baby. But now, here she goes up, and she says to the priest, and she has this little boy there, and you know what she says to the priest? She said, I know what she said, he's going to work for you. Well, no, she said, you remember me maybe? Said, I was the one you thought was drunk, and I told you I was praying, my heart was broken. And what I was doing was asking God for a son, and I would dedicate him to the Lord, and this son was born, and I'm dedicating him to be used for the Lord here in the house of God. No, and now Eli's going to raise this little guy. Now Eli we're going to be raising this little guy. Well, what is he? Is he going to teach him your own? Chesley, you know what? I really believe that Samuel's mom and dad had been teaching and training him. And so he was listening. Chesley, I know he listened. Those parents realized probably that it wasn't the best environment where he was going to be. Because Eli wasn't teaching the truth. Well, he wasn't really disciplining those boys. He was just letting them by with whatever they wanted to do. But they knew they had to teach and train this young man before he got up there. And so he could know the right thing to do. He knew right from wrong. He no doubt already knew the law of the land and knew what the law that the Lord had given to those people. And so he was the right guy. Even though he was just a young man, just a little boy, he was the right person for the job. And he was on the job training when one night, all of a sudden, here he is now, and he's taking care and doing the various jobs that Eli had for him to do, and he was keeping candles lit and just whatever needed to be done. And Eli, he called him, heard a voice saying, Samuel, Samuel. And so he said, yes, sir, here I am. Yes, he went to Samuel. I went to Eli, and Eli said, son, I didn't call for you. You go ahead and go back to bed. And so he did that, and he said, I think I'm hearing things. Well, he might have thought maybe he's had a dream. Well, all of a sudden, he heard it again. And it was Samuel, Samuel. No, he said, I know I'm not crazy. I did hear. That's what I think. He said, I know I heard. And he went back and he said, Master, you did call for me. You did? He said, I didn't call for you. Go ahead and go back to bed. I think he just having some dreams. That's what he was thinking. He might have been thinking that. He's just having dreams. Well, the third time it happened, he heard the voice again. And he said, I know I'm not dreaming. That's right. He said, I know I'm not dreaming. I know I heard the voice. And I know it's... And he went back again. He didn't just say, oh, I just forget it. He could have done that, Chesley. He could have said, well, the other two times it wasn't, so I just skip it this time. He didn't. He knew it was true. He had heard a voice. So he told him that time, hey, sir, I know I heard. I know that I heard a voice. I know I did. And about that time, what are you doing? You flirting with the girls? You caught me. Yes, I caught you. But Chesley, right now, let's tell the story. And Eli, he hadn't really been praying and seeking the Lord. And so he wasn't close to God. He wasn't close to God. But he realized, oh, just a minute. That's God calling him. And so he said, Samuel, when you go back to bed, you go back to bed. And when you hear that again, if you hear that voice again, You say, speak, Lord, for your servant hears. Oh, he's going to hear from God. I think that was really a thrilling thing to him. He was going to hear from God. And so he went back. I think, you know what I think? I think he was waiting. He can hardly wait. I think so. I don't even know if he could sleep. I don't think he could have. I think he's just laying there waiting for God to call him. And he is going to be quick to obey. And this time, he knew he didn't have to go to Eli. Eli had already told him, it's not me calling you, it's the Lord. And sure enough, when he went back and laid down, he didn't have his eyes closed. I don't know if he had his eyes closed or not. It would have been hard to sleep. It was the joy and excitement. He didn't know what it was going to be like. And he heard that voice again, and he knew it was God. And he said, speak, Lord, for your servant hears. Your servant hears. I'm listening. Oh, and God was glad he had somebody like it. God was so happy. He had an obedient child here. And by now, I don't know, we don't know whether he might be grown into a teenager. We don't know his exact age. That he wasn't like a 4-year-old. No, I don't hardly think it was like a 4-year-old. Chesley, we just know this, that he was old enough to know himself to speak, and the Lord began to tell him things was going to happen. No, it was a good thing. You know, Chesley, the Lord was going to use him now as a prophet, but he began to speak to him of what was going to happen because Eli had not been faithful. No, and then what's he going to do then? And just keep it to himself? No, he couldn't keep it to himself. The Lord told him, now you're going to have to tell Eli what I'm telling you. And it wasn't maybe the easiest thing to do, but Eli knew when the next morning, you know, of course, Samuel, I think you can run and tell him, you know what? You know what's going to happen? No, he didn't do that. Samuel didn't do that. He thought, I'll just wait. I think his thing was, I'll wait till he asks me. I'm not going to say anything until he asks. Because I think he was kind of scared he didn't want to tell him bad news. No one likes to give bad news. You just don't want to do that. But you know what, Chesley? After a while, Eli said, what did the Lord tell you? And he said, you tell me. Is bad news? Well, Chesley, he didn't want to say it, but Eli knew. Eli knew he hadn't done right. And so he knew he was in trouble. He knew he was in trouble. And so he said, you tell me what the Lord said, because that's the right thing to do. And you'll be punished if you don't. No. And so he just told him the whole truth. He told him the whole truth. Chesley, the Lord honored this young man, Samuel, and he grew up to be a very good prophet. And we're so thankful for his example of being quick to obey. He didn't say to the Lord, no, Lord, I don't want to give that bad message. I don't want to do that. He just humbled his heart, and whatever the Lord wanted, he knew that's the right thing to do. You can't go wrong by doing right. And so here was this young man. Samuel's example was quick to obey. And so that's what we can learn today. We can learn that too. That's a good example. Be quick to obey our parents and quick to obey God. And what I found out, if you're taught to obey your parents, then you're quick to obey the Lord. I heard one man say this. He said, when my dad spoke, he said, I didn't tell him no, or I didn't tell him, wait a minute. He said, I was quick to obey him. And he said, that way, he said, I was used to obeying my earthly father. So when my heavenly father, when the Lord spoke to my heart to live for him and to honor him, and even to go into the ministry, he said, he was quick to obey. He was quick to obey. It's important to learn obedience now. And because it brings blessing, it brings great blessing, and not just to Samuel, but to the whole nation of Israel. He could be a blessing. Chesley, we may not influence an entire nation, and some of us people listening today may, but we know this, Chesley, that we can influence those around us. And so for the good things, that we're always a good example. And Chesley, it's a good example for you to go ahead and go to bed when it's time to go to bed. Oh, I knew that was coming. Oh, there you go, ruining my day. Chesley, you just think you've been up a good long time now. The story was kind of lengthy, but right now you get to go to bed, and I know I'm going to rest, and I'm going to come back, and and the termites are in the trunk. No, there was no termites in the trunk. I know there's ticks. No, Chesley, there's no ticks in that trunk. Now they call them dogs, they got ticks. No, Chesley, our dogs don't have ticks. You tell everybody goodbye and you're ready to go to bed. No, I don't want to tell any lies saying I'm ready, because I really ain't. Did I know it, Chesley? But let's just use good grammar here. And so right now you need to go to bed. Okay, I'm going to do it because I think that's the right thing to do. I'm going to be obedient. That's right. You need to be a good example and be obedient. And so next Sunday afternoon, the Lord willing, and probably it will be quite a bit earlier, but we waited till later today because it's Like I said, a lot of people are with their fathers. You have a good rest of the day. The Lord bless you and keep you until next time. And now it's time for me to depart. Well, Chesley, you'll depart. But I'll let you stay right here until while I push the button, okay?